So back in 2020, I, Steven Shinder, started a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing the latest films. However, it got broadcast into an alternate universe, where those films got delayed and came out differently from how I was describing them. Because of how me and my guests had been describing the films, people in that other universe were saying that this was all an improvised comedy podcast, which, listening back, I can totally get why they believed that. A lot of weird stuff happened in that first year, and I even met my other self from that other universe, who pops in from time to time, for better or worse. And now, in the year 2023, this podcast continues, still recapping and reviewing movies and sometimes some other things that got delayed or canceled in that other universe. A new episode Saturdays every other week, unless I decide otherwise for some special reason or whatever. You are listening to Delayed Replay, Season 4.
Hey everyone, so this episode is about Pirates Beyond the Caribbean, but at the end there's also a review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So if you want to check that out, it'll be like an hour and 10 minutes in, maybe slightly less. I'll put the timestamps in the show notes. It begins non-spoiler, and then you get a warning when it starts going into actual spoilers. But without further delay, enjoy the episode.
Just push this button, then that button, just push all the buttons until something happens.
Yeah, like in Dexter's Laboratory. Or laboratory, one might say.
Yeah, Dexter's Laboratory. Dexter's Laborati.
Alright, I'll go ahead and bring us in then. But feel free to pause if, like, there's any question or whatever, obviously, but yeah.
I just immediately interrupt you like 3 seconds into the introduction. No, I won't do that. Or will I?
Oh, I guess we'll have to see. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me once again, you may have heard him on some past episodes, it is Dylan Green from Decorative Vegetable LLC. How's it going?
It's not an LLC yet. I know you were just making a joke, but also making a potentially surprisingly prescient prediction for like 2 years from now. And I'm just not going to elaborate on that anymore. I'm just going to let that hang in the air as a tease that in true Decorative Vegetable fashion may never amount to anything.
Yeah, don't elaborate, or don't elaborati, one might say.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't remember if we got this on recording, but before starting, we mentioned Dexter's Laboratory, and then
Dexter's
I was like,
Laborati.
Yeah, yeah, I was like, or Dexter's Laboratory, one might say, and then you went with that. Yeah, so a little bit of context there, because explaining the joke is always funny.
It is if you're Keon, who was supposed to be joining us today but got swamped with work. So unfortunately for the audience, they're stuck with just me. Drones erupt from the audience. 5 people just turned off the podcast right now.
Yeah, and like when I asked you guys if you'd want to do this episode, his response was like, oh, man, I don't have it ready at the moment, but it was like, something that sounded like he wouldn't be into it, but then it turns out that the response revealed that he was. He was like, something like, I'll be honest, I'm messy and haven't been... I'll insert the actual wording. Okay, so what Keon said when I asked if he could be on the episode initially was, I'm gonna level with you. I can't even keep myself properly fed and bathed, and I swear far too constantly for the average podcast. So given those facts, and considering this is about pirates, I just might be the perfect one for the job. So yeah, it's pretty funny. That went a completely different direction from where I thought it was going. It seemed like he would say, "This is why I can't be on," but turns out that was a pro. But inevitably, he was unable to come on. So that's that. All right, back to the episode. Yeah. So so Keon was able to make it to this one, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's okay. It's all right, I guess. It's acceptable, actually. No, yeah, well,
Yeah, it's serviceable.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I also don't think we've ever explicitly mentioned this on the podcast, but in this universe, Dylan is literally green. It's not just his last name.
My skin is green. I photosynthesize. I don't have to eat.
Yeah, I never asked exactly why you're green because I always thought it would be impolite. So there you go.
It's a long story. It's a long story that involves loads of mad scientists and a lot of mad gardeners, you might say.
Yeah, in a laboratory. Yeah. But anyway, we are talking about Pirates Beyond the Caribbean, Stream of Pyro Sea. So this is the spin-off starring Margot Robbie, and of course they include Beyond in the title because, like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's like Batman Beyond.
Yeah, or Star Trek
the
Beyond.
Torch.
Or Beyond the Spider-Verse, like in that other universe.
Yeah, all the best movies have the word beyond in them. In fact, let's just look up how many movies have the word beyond in the title.
Yeah, I mean, there was a Disney Plus show based on R.L. Stine books called Just Beyond. I thought it was pretty enjoyable.
There is significantly more movies with the word beyond in the title than I thought.
Beyond Thunderdome is one of them, right?
Just called Beyond Beyond.
What?
Wow. Feels like something I would make up.
Yeah. Land Before Time, The Mysterious Beyond, I think is in one of the titles, because, like, that's a place in the series.
There's two versions of Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Beyond Outrage, Beyond Borders, Beyond Rangoon, Beyond Skyline.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's 10 pages of this. All right, well, screw that. I'm done after page 1.
Oh, we'll link it in the show notes. But yeah, so this came out for the 20th anniversary of the film series based on the popular Disneyland ride. I guess we should start by talking about how we got into Pirates of the Caribbean. So Dylan, what's your Pirates of the Caribbean story?
I genuinely don't remember how I watched or why I watched the first one for the first time. Genuinely have absolutely no recollection of the event. I do remember watching. Well, this is probably not the first time I watched them, but I do remember one of the earliest times I watched them was in high school, and I told the story on the Triple Play. In high school, in AP World History, after the AP test, you kind of just, like, I don't know, mess around for 2 months, not doing anything. And we took a vote on, like, what movie to watch, and there was a bunch of people who wanted to watch, like, Serenity. And so we watched Serenity, and then after that, I think people really wanted to watch, like, the series, but they were overwhelmed by a surprise contender of Pirates of the Caribbean. We then proceeded to watch like I think the next three Pirates, all the first three. I don't think the fourth one. The fourth one was either recently in theaters, like within a year or two of that event, or was about to be released in theaters. But we watched the first three Pirates movies, and yeah, and then we ended up watching them for triple play at some point. So that was kind of neat, I guess.
You guess.
I guess. I mean, I watched the fourth one in theaters, believe it or not, and I've never watched the fifth one. So
Good.
I don't know. I heard it was better than the fourth one.
I disagree.
Yeah, well, if you look at our Letterboxd accounts, I think you and I disagree on a lot of movies, so I don't really think that means anything for whether or not I
really
would like it.
Yeah, you really love Star Trek Nemesis.
Hey, it's not bad. I don't know where all these people who hate on it come from. And you know what? I'm just going to drop this hot take on the podcast right now. I'm getting really close to the mic so people know I'm serious. Indiana Jones 4 is good.
Oh, I actually think so too. I actually like it. Wait, what?
Oh, what? Oh, I think I lost you for a second there.
Oh, well, what was that sound?
I didn't make any strange noises, so if you heard a strange noise, it was Skype being Skype.
Okay. I might leave that in if it's coming. Yeah, it's still recording, so yeah, I guess we'll see how that comes out in the edit. But yeah, so I guess I can tell how I got into Pirates of the Caribbean. I probably went on the ride on either my first or second Disneyland visit, maybe both. So those have been 2002 and 2005 when I was a kid. And I didn't get around to watching the films until about like 2006, 2007. It was before the third one came out. My brother had seen them, so we rented the first one, Curse of the Black Pearl, and then a little bit later we watched Dead Man's Chest. And I saw At World's End in the cinema, and then a few years later on Stranger Tides, I saw that in the cinema as well. And then 6 years later, such a huge gap, saw Dead Men Tell No Tales in the cinema, and I instantly regretted it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if people who've heard the Halloween Kills episode of all episodes know my Pirates movie rankings, but basically for me it's Curse at the top, followed by At World's End, because I thought it was a pretty epic culmination, and then on Stranger Tides, which, while a detour, I thought it was refreshing after all the convolutedness of the first, or really the second and third movies. And then Dead Man's Chest, because it feels very much like a setup movie, a part 1 of 2 movie, and sometimes those don't rank as high for me. And then in dead last is Dead Men Tell No Tales, or Salazar's Revenge, as it's known in some places, because it feels like it's trying to retcon like the end of the third movie and like blowing past important things from the fourth movie and sort of just like barely acknowledging them, and forgetting about Penelope Cruz's character. And it also like Jack is like supposed to be significantly older than we thought he was because of where the timeline of the fifth one is now, because it's like Will and Elizabeth's kid, he's like in his 20s or something. It's like this timeline is really hard to buy into, unless like it would have made sense if Jack had gotten something from the Fountain of Youth, but he didn't. So it's like, what?
Nice.
And the
Great.
cameos feel so shoehorned in and so artificial. And yeah, the fifth one and Barbosa's wasted in that one. Like, he wasn't utilized very well.
Great. Barbosa's my favorite character, my best liked character. So
yeah, and
I also like know what happens to him in the fifth one, and that's part of the reason I haven't watched it.
Yeah, and certain side characters return like before the movie even starts. They're back without explanation, and it's like, who wrote this trash?
I don't know if you're like avoiding spoiling it for my sake or for the audience, but if it's for me, I literally don't care because I have no desire to watch this movie anytime soon and literally don't care about spoiling it. But if you're doing it for the audience, then keep doing it, I guess. But if you're doing it for me, I just want you to know you have permission to just spoil the hell out of it.
All right, we could just go past it. I don't really want to dwell too much on the movie. There's still so much PTSD from it. But anyway.
Steven's like war flashbacking on the other side, and I'm just over here making memes.
Yeah. So apparently they've had the sixth main movie in development for a while. But of course, there's like behind the scenes stuff and just a lot of stuff that's like pushing that idea back. I don't know if it'll happen, but in our universe, they were also like, I guess in both universes, they were focusing on a female-led Margot Robbie spinoff. But in that other universe, they've kind of stalled development on that to focus on the sixth entry, from what I heard from my other self.
Which I don't even know if that's a thing in this other universe. Like, is it ever going to happen? I don't know. Too bad they missed out on the glorious movie that is the Margot Robbie spinoff, though.
Yeah, over here they focused on it, especially because over here they're doing like basically emphasizing Disney parks rides in these movies. So and it's like the 100-year anniversary of Disney. So yeah. I think Margot Robbie is a great actress. In fact, when I watched Birds of Prey a few years ago, I realized then that her Harley Quinn kind of reminds me of Jack Sparrow. So it was pretty fitting to get her for this spinoff, in my opinion.
I think she's a good actor, too. I think she's underrated. I feel like she's been in a lot of movies that have been critically, I don't want to say panned, because not all of them have. But I will say that a lot of the movies she's been in have been not well received critically, I suppose. So I feel like she's been overlooked in terms of good acting.
Yeah, but hey, that Barbie movie coming out pretty soon after this movie, it's like the age of Margot now, you know?
It's true. It's like the Age of Ultron, but better. Since it'll last more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, like, I vaguely remember some video where maybe it was the Honest trailer where it said Week of Ultron as the alternative title at the end.
Well, just because the title is Age of Ultron, but like it's not really whatever. We don't have to get into it. We don't. It's whatever.
Yeah, they could have called it Rage of Ultron, and that would have been better.
Make a movie title better by adding one letter.
Yeah. But speaking of titles, that reminds me, I thought it was pretty smart that when the first Pirates movie came out, they added the subtitle Curse of the Black Pearl. So it kind of set a precedent that, like, if it did have sequels, then people would be able to just say the subtitle of that one instead of make it confusing and being like, oh, which Pirates or Pirates 1 type thing. It made the naming scheme uniform, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though I still just refer to them as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I can never remember if At World's End is after Dead Man's Chest or vice versa.
What? I think it's pretty clear. It's easy to remember because it's the end of that trilogy.
Yeah, you say that, but my brain is just so filled with useless information that was too useless to even include. So it just gets deleted.
I feel like it's even more easy to remember years after that, but for the fact that the Three Flavors of Cornetto trilogy even ended with The World's End. So it's
That's the other thing is I keep confusing At World's End with World's the Three Cornettos one is just The World's End or World's End. It's not At World's End, and that always also confuses me.
Yeah, so you'll be thinking, oh, is this the one where Jack Sparrow goes on a pub crawl type thing?
Yeah, exactly. He does like rum.
Yeah.
Where has all the rum gone?
Yeah, that is something to ruminate about. Did you see what I did there?
Yeah, I did. I had no reaction.
So
anyway.
So we start with Margot Robbie, who's living, I guess this is the Florida Peninsula, like against the Caribbean. And
yeah, she's having a grand old time.
Yeah, just like partying with her friends as people did in the 18th century or whatever. And like she hears stories of like piracy in the Caribbean, and then she's like, I wonder if there are pirates beyond the Caribbean. It's kind of silly.
I mean, kind of. She like goes home. There's like a picture of her like dad on the wall, like a painting. I guess it turns out her dad was like the former governor. And she's like, I'm going to make you proud, Dad. I'm going to like do something that like changes the world. And it's just like a kind of a weird motivation for a pirate. But I mean, I was on board. I was like, I'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll make my governor dad proud by becoming a pirate.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was a really weird motivation, but like, I don't know. I was on board, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was confused because I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be something her dad would want or a form of rebellion against her dad. So it's something that didn't really get clarified very well in the movie. But anyway, yeah, she wants to be a pirate, and the whole thing about pirates beyond the Caribbean, like it's kind of silly because we already know there are pirates in other places, especially thanks to At World's End. But in the marketing for this, the narrator kept being like, you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, but what about beyond the Caribbean?
That Pirate Congress scene is the best scene in those movies. And by those movies, I mean the duology.
Oh, so Dead Man's Chest and At World's End?
Yeah, At World's End and Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely up there. It's a great scene. And Margot Robbie's character, her name is actually Carrie Bean. So it's kind of lazy naming there, but whatever.
A lot of this movie feels a lot of this movie feels like just kind of lazy writing a little bit. I mean, I felt like this movie was pretty heavily carried by Margot
I see what
Robbie.
You did there.
Just carried by Margot Robbie doing the best she can to make something of the source material.
Yeah, it's so funny to think of a theme park ride as source material, but I guess you also mean the movies and whatnot, but it's just kind of funny to think about.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
She works in this tavern, but she's like sneakily asking people like, hey, you want to join my pirate gang? Like, we could get a boat and start a ship. And it's like you get all sorts of strange characters. Like, what were some of your favorites here?
I really liked the curious inclusion of the talking parrot. It's just like never explained. You know, like Jack had his monkey, but in this movie we get a talking parrot, who they uninspiredly named Polly, who just wisecracks through the whole movie. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like a creative choice that none of the characters in the movie ever acknowledged the parrot at all. Like, was it just for the audience? Like, are we privy to something that the characters don't know, or are they just so done with Polly that they don't even like acknowledge her? Like, I was very confused by that, but I liked her character. I felt like it was a good inclusion, voiced by Emma Thompson of all people. I don't know how they got such a big actress to sign on for such a bit part, but I was glad they did.
Yeah, I mean, she probably went into the studio just for a day and recorded everything, and that was it. But it is kind of like that whole, like when you watch the live action Garfield movies, it's like, wait, can people understand Garfield, or is it just for the audience? So it's like kind of confusing.
I mean, everybody loves Garfield, so
Nah, take him or leave him.
I could take him in a fight.
I mean, yeah, probably. John Wick versus Garfield when?
Oh, don't give Lionsgate any ideas.
Right, so there are a bunch of interesting characters in this. And of course, since this is female-led, they are all like some actresses that are well known and some that are not so well known. Like there are some like up and coming ones that I think will get recognized more thanks to this movie. But you had other actresses here, like Alice Eve was one of them. She's kind of like in a comedy duo, there's like the quote unquote straight man and the like funny guy. I feel like Alice is like the straight man. So kind of being like, what the heck is going on? Why is this happening type character.
I also thought it was an interesting choice to bring back Keira Knightley as a completely different character, playing the opposite to Alice Eve in the comedy duo. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah, and she has a twin sister in this, played by Natalie Portman.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting choice, but hey, whatevs. You know, I'm down with it. I can get down with the sickness.
Down this. That's a song, right?
Yeah.
Pirate gang is formed. They go out and try to find a vessel. So, you know, something that they can use to sail, one might say. And apparently there's this auction, this convenient auction where someone is selling their ship. And it's like, hang on, why is this person selling a ship? This feels way too convenient. But
yeah, kind of hilarious how like I can't believe we haven't even said Margot Robbie's character's name yet for this entire podcast, but she just
Carrie Bean. Remember?
Oh, that's right. You're right. They only said it like 3 times in the movie, so I kind of just like deleted it from my brain.
Oh, yeah. Like you deleted Which Order, Dead Man's Chest, and That World's End came in.
Yeah, exactly. See, you've got it. This franchise it only occupies a limited space in my mind, and so I can only keep so much information. But anyway, Carrie like has no qualms about just buying what is clearly a rickety, rundown, about to sink ship. I mean, the floorboards are literally coming off the boat when she steps on the boat. The ship when she steps onto it.
Yeah, and she's basically like, I think it's a real fixer-upper. And so we get a montage of the crew like trying to fix up the ship, and there's some like hilarious hijinks of them like getting injured and falling and stuff as they're trying to fix it. And then by the end of the montage, it's barely any different from when they bought it.
Well, I mean, they tried. They tried. The ship immediately starts sinking. They're panicking. They're like, what's going on? There's a hilarious moment where Melissa McCarthy makes a cameo as a ship repairman, and she makes these jokes like, what's going on? The ship's falling apart. This is worse than the time my mother got on a boat and it sank immediately, and we're all just sitting in the audience like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah. So, we get to like some Disney references, and this is just the tip of the iceberg early on in the movie. The Little Mermaid remake recently came out, so there's that, Ursula right there. And we later find out that the reason that this ship was being sold is because it's actually kind of haunted. And the reason for that is that it's made out of basically, okay, so I don't remember if you saw the new Haunted Mansion movies, so it might be confusing if you haven't, but at the end of that movie, the mansion imploded and kind of disappeared. So here it's explained that it reshaped itself into a ship like way back in the past, and there's like all this stuff happening across reality because as was teased at the end of Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, I remember the end of Jungle Cruise. I think we talked about that once.
Where Tom Hanks and Tim Allen showed up dressed as Woody and Buzz.
Yeah. It's kind of wild, Like, Disney's trying to do... I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Disney's trying to just, like, do the Marvel thing, but with all the Disney movies, which is it's just so confusing how they're trying to link these animated movies to the live action movies. They're trying to link it to they're trying to link it to like all the Fox properties that they bought. Like, it's just it's very ambitious and so far not working out. I know Tom Hanks shows up in this one too.
Yeah.
He shows up at the end and he asks Carrie if she wants to join the Disney Initiative, because I guess in this universe Walter Disney is real, but the Disney Corporation is not.
Right.
But like, it was very
Tom
confusing.
Hanks played Walt Disney in Saving Mr. Banks, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is that Tom Hanks doesn't show up as Woody. He shows up as Walt Disney himself.
Yeah,
asking Carrie to join the Walter Disney Initiative. What is going on with this universe? That's not to mention all the crazy stuff that happens in this movie that seems completely incompatible with any other movie in the universe.
Yeah, very much Tom Hanks pulling I don't know if it's more a Polar Express or a Cloud Atlas, but he's basically all over the place in a way. What's funny, I know we're like jumping ahead, but whatever, spoilers or whatever. Like in that scene with Tom Hanks, he also references Mission to Mars and how it's kind of strange that there was an astronaut named Woody. So,
I mean, it all comes full circle. It all comes full circle, you might say. It all comes full square.
Yeah. Is that reference to when you're like, I'll be there or I'll be square when asked if
Yes.
you be here at 9:30? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, wasn't Tom Hanks in a movie called The Circle or something?
Yeah, with God, Emma Watson. I don't know why I blanked on her name. I've seen that movie actually. It was eh. It was eh.
Yeah, it didn't look interesting.
It's not really. That's all I'll say. I'm sure the book is probably better because it can actually delve into like all of the things that the movie just kind of glosses over. It doesn't even acknowledge.
Yeah, I might watch it eventually just to write a Letterboxd review about it, but whatever.
Oh yeah, Letterboxd.
Yeah.
I have like 3 movies I've seen in the last week I haven't written my Letterboxd reviews for. I'm really bad at keeping it up to date.
Dang, you're fake Letterboxd user.
Yes. I really only use it to keep track of the movies I've seen. I don't like. I write the reviews more to remind myself about the movie later when I'm considering maybe rewatching it.
Oh yes, it's very helpful because sometimes I'm like, did I watch this movie? Like, do I need to spend my time watching it in case I have it? And then I look and I'm like, okay, I did watch it, so I don't need to. I've recently kind of considered making a second Letterboxd account where I just review movies that I haven't seen. Like, can you imagine me doing that?
Wow. Wow. I have nothing to say to that except wow. Let's just go on with the show here.
Right. So the ship is haunted. Very much like a throwback to Curse of the Black Pearl, but you of course have the Disney synergy going on. They even like mention the treasure of like they say something about the treasure of Jack Sparrow and how that might be something fun to look for. And they're like, well, last we heard he had trouble in Atlantis. And it's like, wow, what a distasteful joke, Disney. And there's like a glimpse at like live action Atlantis, the Lost Empire in this time period.
Yeah, we see Milo Thatch at some point in this movie. Another cameo. It reminds me of I never watched it myself, but the like remake of The Mummy with Tom Cruise, where they like just like tried to set up the entire cinematic universe in one movie, where like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde show up, and then like all these other random characters show up. It's kind of what like this movie reminded me of. Like Milo Thatch shows up at one point and asks Carrie for help finding Atlantis, and she says. No. She says actually explicitly, hell no. I'm too busy looking for Krakatoa.
And of course, Milo is played by Tom Holland here. Because, of course, he would be the fan casting. And of course, because his presence was kind of a question mark, but of course, there's been like all this stuff about space and time sort of folding into it's like a very blanket reason for having all these Disney cameos without too many questions. It's kind of like a Stephen Moffat Doctor Who type thing, but more nonsensical. So yeah, they are like, you know what, let's not go to Atlantis, let's go look for some treasure in this place called the Pyro Sea over in Krakatoa. And Pyro Sea almost sounds like piracy, so I kind of wonder if this movie's trying to say something, stream of piracy. Like, what are they saying about piracy of movies and shows,
Yeah, it feels like everything else in this movie they've said was just lazy or like weird and kind of convoluted. The name is like the biggest one. Like, really, guys, like we all know exactly what you were going for. And it's not funny. It's not funny.
Yeah, it's basically like saying subscribe to Disney Plus or else. There is a chance we could take stuff off, but still subscribe to us. Don't do piracy. Give us money.
Which is like even weirder in this time period where like Netflix is cracking down on password sharing and yet made more revenue because of it. Like, most people just don't care, which is bad. So soon we're going to be at the point where like every streaming service can only be accessed from like the same household, and then piracy will just like rocket up in popularity again.
Yeah, and I'm sure somewhere in there will be some AI generated streaming services or something.
Oh God, AI generated streaming,
Yeah.
AI generated movies.
I recently saw this meme where it was like John Connor's reaction when he sees that people are relying on AI, and it's a screenshot from Terminator 2. But that I shared that meme, and then I was like, to be honest, Terminator Genesis and Dark Fate felt like AI generated movies.
It's fine. We're just moving towards a world where I don't even know how to. We're moving towards a world where just everything is AI generated, and most people just seem to be okay with this.
Yeah, well, apparently Big Finish changed their artwork for the Doctor Who Once and Future the Artist at the End of Time, and I suspect that's probably because people noticed that the original artwork they were using was AI generated.
Nice.
Like, it would have been kind of fitting if the story was about AI generated art, but it wasn't.
Nice. Oh well, I guess.
Oh well. So of course, as they're traveling to Krakatoa, they have a rival, not the movie. They have a person who's their nemesis, you might say, and that is of course Captain Hook, played by Jude Law, as he played him in Peter Pan and Wendy recently.
Well,
did you see Peter Pan and Wendy?
No, actually, I don't subscribe to Disney Plus anymore. So, no. And honestly, I don't feel like I missed anything.
Yeah, you didn't. It was pretty bland and didn't really have the joy of like other Peter Pan things.
Are you telling me you watch movies for joy? Who does that?
Like, unironically, Wendy, this is a different movie and not Disney, is a great reimagining of the Peter Pan story. It's like a modern version. It's pretty good.
Why do we feel this is not a knock on you, this is a knock on Hollywood, but why do we feel like we always have to make these quote unquote modern versions of things? Like, why like is the original, like, is it just not allowed to stand on its own anymore? Is it just like, why do we need to modernize it? I don't know. Just like something I've been thinking about recently,
No, yeah, it can be very hit and miss. Like, it's not always going to be a slam dunk in the end zone,
Yeah, unlike this movie, which was clearly a slam dunk in the end zone.
So we get a fight between Carrie's crew and Captain Hook's crew, and this was actually a well choreographed fight in my opinion. What were a couple of highlights that you liked about this fight, or disliked even?
For the most part, I liked it. I was a little incredulous at the scene where they pull up the ship. In another classic lazy naming job, the writers just decided to name the ship the Green Pearl, but whatever. They like bring the ship alongside Captain Hook's ship, and then like Carrie runs across the cannons that are like sticking out, and then she like jumps across to the cannons on Captain Hook's ship. I mean, the gap she closed with that jump was just so insanely large that I was like, there's no way that's even possible. And then she, scraped her sword along the side of the cannon to light it, and then she flipped it over to point it at Captain Hook's own ship. Like, just that whole sequence, while visually looking very cool, made me very incredulous that it was possible at all.
Yeah, there's also a part in the movie where I know like Carrie's crew is like mostly female, but they also have Christopher Eccleston on their crew. And at one point he's like, we should blow up cannons. And, yeah, kind of a reference to in real life he says people should blow up cannon or whatever when it comes to Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, he's right, he's right. He's right. You know what? Everything is canon for Doctor Who. Even this is canon to Doctor Who.
I mean, might as well be. Why not? Like, they mention a bunch of different realities within Disney, so, like, might as well. They also come across, when they're actually in the stream of piracy, it's all fiery and whatever. They also encounter another pirate crew, and at first they're cloaked, so you don't see what they really look like. But then one of them sounds like Jim Cummings, and another sounds like Lupita Nyong'o, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, I know these voices, and lo and behold, it's Hondo Ohnaka and Maz Kanata from the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I mean, just metaphorically jumping the volcano here. And I say metaphorically, I have to clarify, because the sequence that's about to proceed in the Pyro Sea, where they finally find Krakatoa, involves a ship actually jumping a volcano, literally. But metaphorically, the movie is just jumping the volcano here by integrating or ingratiating the Star Wars universe into the Pirates of the Caribbean universe.
Yeah, they even include a live-action Jim from Treasure Planet, played by de-aged Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Okay, it was kind of cool getting glimpses of visuals from, like, the Treasure Planet ships and places and whatnot, but at the same time, it's like, is this really how it should have been done, Disney? Like, really?
Yes, Disney would say yes.
Don't remember when this is explained, but apparently the changes in reality and stuff, like all space and time being disrupted or whatever, like it's explained that it was caused by a Martian who was tired of humans like being part of Mars. And this goes back to Mission to Mars, which took place in 2020, and that Martian is like, 2020 changed everything, which I don't know why he would say the year if it's an Earth year, but whatever. And he's like, I tried looking for other realities where Mars doesn't have humans, and we see glimpses of like John Carter and of Mars Seed's moms. And then he was like, I realized that in order to change things, I needed to go back in time, and basically uses like some artifact that like takes him through time, but like it messes up, and that's why everything's like super wonky with all these Disney properties colliding.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that they're going to follow that thread up at the end, when Tom Hanks shows up as Walter Disney in the post-credits scene. I don't know I don't know what like marketable skills Carrie brings to this galactic crusader force trying to put the universe right, this pirate from the 1600s. But I mean, I guess we'll have to see in the sequel, which I think has been confirmed.
Right. Yeah, and we even get cameos from like the Once Upon a Time TV show, and there's a question of whether Emma Swan is maybe a descendant of Elizabeth Swan. So yeah, might as well shoehorn that in, I guess.
Yeah, why not? You know what? Why not? Throw it all in there. Honestly surprised Jack Sparrow didn't show up in this at all.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because of like, the legal stuff. So I'm curious like if like what the future could be like with or without him. But it is really odd to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Pirates of the Caribbean without him, the film series anyway.
I'm sure he'll come back. Everything will blow over pretty quickly, and people will forget, and they'll bring him back.
Yeah, unlike Dead Men Tell No Tales, which I wish I could forget. Another thing that sucks about that title is how similar it is to Dead Man's Chest. Like, I know that places where it's called Salazar's Revenge don't have that problem, but, like, yeah, and over here in the US, it's like we're kind of screwed with that title.
I mean, maybe they just wanted people to confuse it for the better, superior movie. Maybe.
Yeah, like they thought they were gonna see a 11th anniversary re-release of Dead Man's Chest.
Honestly, I would be in the movie theater for that. If they decided to re-release it.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah. You'll see me in the theater. I'll specifically go to the showing you're going to, and I won't like acknowledge you. I'll just sit in a seat near you and stare at you until you see me, and then as soon as you look at me, I'll just look at the screen like I wasn't looking at you.
Yeah, you'll sit near me regardless of whether or not someone has bought the ticket for that seat in advance.
Yeah, well, it's more comfortable to sit on people than on some of those movie chairs.
Speaking of sitting on people, the green pearl it turns into like some skeleton bones, so it's kind of like the crew is standing and sitting on people. And this development makes it unstable, and so there's kind of another spectacle that ensues as they continue fighting Captain Hook's forces and dealing with this stream of Pyro Sea, the volcanic stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just want to talk about the ship jumping the volcano because, like, what the hell was that? So basically, what happens is the Green Pearl, that name still, is just sailing along. They're trying to get to Krakatoa before the other ships. The other ships are chasing along, but the Green Pearl doesn't have the kind of technology that these other ships have. But right then, they get shot at by Hondo, and the explosion causes a massive tsunami tidal wave that the Green Pearl rides, and eventually it launches them over the volcano, where Carrie drops from the ship while using a sail as a parachute into Krakatoa to recover the bronze bobby pin they've been looking for the whole movie.
Yeah, and there's also like some surfer rock music that plays during this tidal wave thing. Very out of place, but hey, lots of things in this movie feel very out of place. But yeah, they get the bronze bobby pin, which I was kind of surprised about, because for a bit of the movie, there was a question of whether the treasure is actually the friends they make along the way, and they kind of play it up for a bit. But no, it's really just this bronze bobby pin.
Yeah, I don't know. There's kind of like maybe some implication that the bronze bobby pin has some otherworldly powers, and maybe that plays into what I was saying earlier, how I don't know what Carrie can bring to this intergalactic super group of people returning the timeline to how it should be. But maybe it has something to do with said bobby pin.
Yeah, we also get an appearance from Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character in Indiana Jones 5. You know, she has a whip and she's like that bobby pin belongs in a museum, specifically in a vault, and it's like, oh, okay, Disney vault, I get it. Of course, we also see The Rock and what's her face? Jim Halpert's wife in real life, who was in Jungle Cruise with The Rock.
Oh man, I thought you were really gonna say that we saw The Rock and that lady from Race to Witch Mountain, that other Disney character that The Rock plays, who also shows up at the end of this movie.
Oh no, yeah, that also happens. But gosh, what was her name? Why am I blanking on it? Oh, Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt?
Yeah.
Emily Blunt?
Yeah. And Rosario Dawson from the Haunted Mansion movie. So yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if they're trying to make this like the iconic team of this Disney universe, but.
And you just know The Rock had like some executive producer say over getting 2 characters in this team compared to everybody else's one, you know?
Right, yeah. He kept saying stuff like, the power dynamic of the Disney universe is about to change.
I mean, I guess we should finish up the plot here. After they get the bronze bobby pin, Carrie just kind of like leaves Krakatoa. They actually kind of just skip over this. It happens off screen.
Yeah.
She's just like back on the ship, and she's like, man, like that was kind of weird. All the other 2 ships kind of just like leave. Yeah. Once she's like claimed the bronze bobby pin, everybody else kind of just, I don't know. I guess they just accept her as like the supreme pirate, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with the powers of the bobby pin. Like maybe it makes people fear her or something.
Yeah, Fear Her, the best Doctor Who episode.
Well, hey, it's definitely not better than Love and Monsters, which is unironically funny, one of the funniest things in Doctor Who. I can sense the disappointment within Dylan right now.
Can you? Through the microphone, I'm transmitting my disappointment via EM waves.
Yeah, exactly. And there's surfer rock music during those EM waves.
Yeah, they have like a surfer rock theme, like a surfer rock version of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. Actually kind of slaps, to be honest. They play it over the credits, which pretty much roll right now.
Yeah,
it's pretty slapping.
Yeah, it sounds like like it's pretty much like that.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually.
But yeah, we've talked about like the setup at the end of like apparently they're doing more of this, which I was kind of surprised about. Like I wasn't sure if they'd keep this as like just a few films or if they'd go beyond the Disney 100th anniversary. So I don't know. Overall, like I know you haven't seen all the films I've played into this, but how do you think they work together trying to tell this storyline?
I don't know. This was a completely chaotic mess. The movie, not this podcast. And I don't know. I appreciate the ambition. I appreciate the ambition of what they're trying to do. I don't think it's working. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much going on in this movie. And the trailers didn't indicate that any of this was going to happen at all. The trailers were very straightforward, actually.
Yeah, they looked very grounded.
But, you know, with all the chaos, absolute insanity going on here, I feel like they lost sight of making a good movie The plot for this movie is very disappointing. Just overall, I don't know. I didn't find this movie very engrossing or enjoyable, actually. Except for the sheer insanity of some part of it. I thought it was kind of boring.
All right. So then what would you score this out of 10, and what's your unit of measurement?
I would score this don't see it out of 10. Yeah, it's like a 4 volcanic explosions out of 10.
Okay, wow, I was also gonna go with 4. Yeah, like it might even be worse than Dead Men Tell No Tales, if you can believe it, but like slightly. But yeah, I give this 4 out of 10 feelings of agony, because that's what I felt watching this. Like, look, there's a story in here, like, and they had this person who wrote the screenplay for Birds of Prey, Christine Hodson, I think her name was. And I think some of this could have been streamlined into a really good story. And Margot Robbie, she performed very well with what she was given. But of course, this is just littered with Disney interference and the need to connect to everything else. So I suspect that there's a lot of that executive meddling going on. And what was really annoying was hearing all the people cheering around me whenever they saw familiar stuff. It was like watching Clerks 3 all over again. It was weird.
Yeah, that's how do I say this tactfully? A criticism I have of movies nowadays is that they're just doing the cameos for the big crowd pleasing moment, and I think that I think some people get fooled into thinking that because there's a lot of crowd pleasing nostalgia moments, that means it's a good movie, but it doesn't.
Right. Or whenever there's a movie that looks like it'll probably be bad, like I still hear people say, I'll see it for Michael Keaton, or I'll see it for Batflix, and it's like, you don't have to see it. Like, what?
Yeah, you don't have to see it. But on that note, I'm seeing The Flash tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it, if only because I expect it to be a dumpster fire, and that's why I'm seeing it. Actually, I've heard all the cameos are just trash, and that's actually why I'm seeing it. So I don't know. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're onto something here.
Oh yeah, The Flash, which came out last year in this universe, they're finally getting around to watching it on home video.
Yeah, I missed it in theaters, actually. I'm just finally seeing it tomorrow because my friend's coming over, and he subscribes to Max. He's coming over. He's gonna log in, and I'm gonna finally see it. He told me I have to see it because it's just insane. So.
All right, so I guess that'll do it. Thanks for being on again, Dylan. Where can people find what you're involved with?
Well, best place is to follow my Twitter at SpacemanDylan. I've also been releasing the backlog of old archived Triple Play episodes over at TYD Podcast, and at Triple Play or Decorative Vegetable, the website, one of which has Steven on, and it's just the most crazy episode of Triple Play of all time.
Yeah,
and then after that,
where we talk about
where we
Atlantis, Treasure Planet, and Princess Bride as a third trilogy.
Yeah, great trilogy, honestly.
Yeah, great podcast series.
Well.
Look, I will forever die on that hill. I don't care what anyone says, even you.
Sure. Okay. And then I'm hoping after that, because I haven't actually recorded any episodes past the one with Steven, to semi-revive Trust Your Doctor, at least for a little while. So follow that. The website's at Decorative Vegetable. The podcast is at TYD Podcast on Twitter and Facebook. Although I kind of hate Twitter now, so I'm kind of not really posting there like ever anymore. Maybe we'll move to Mastodon. I don't know.
Oh gosh, Mastodon. I heard there were like some issues with. I don't know if it was Mastodon or something else, but it was like the security isn't good enough or something, or with the messaging maybe. So like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about it, so I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Frankly, I just hate Twitter now. I just feel like over the past 6 months, it's gone down the toilet. It's just like the same 5 accounts that are recommended to me all the time that I don't care about. I don't really want to support the platform anymore. I don't agree with what any of the people who run the platform are doing, and so I don't want to support that either. But it's like also the largest social media for the podcasts, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a conundrum. Yeah, I totally get it.
So I don't know. At some point, I have to sit down and actually decide what I'm going to do with all that. But not today. For now, you can follow us there at TYD Podcast. There you go. That's the end of the sentence.
Nice.
Longest sentence of my life.
Yeah, it's a life sentence, you might say.
Ouch.
But yeah, and I'll include my plugs in the edit as I've been doing as of late. All right, go to StevenShinder.com, add Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, and add Steven Shinder on Threads. Yeah, I'm on there now. We'll see how long that lasts. Check me out on Goodreads, Letterboxd. I'll put the links in the show notes. Yesshift, the vlog/podcast I do with my dad. There's an interview we did with Oliver Wakeman recently, so that's up now. And you can also email Delayed Replay via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on streaming services. What's the future of streaming? Also, check out Triple Play. I think we may have mentioned it on this episode. You can go to decorativevegetable.com and go there. And I don't think the finale episode that I was on is out yet, but keep an eye out for that. And also check out like some of the earlier stuff. It's worth listening to. And I'm also on Question Possible Answer on a recently recorded episode about everything everywhere all at once. Me and my friend Jesse, who's been on Delayed Replay a few times, we talked about everything everywhere all at once and the multiverse, and we really went on some interesting tangents. So I think that comes out the weekend this episode comes out. I could be mistaken, but subscribe to that and you'll be able to keep up and see it when it appears. And also after this, there will be a review for my other self from that other universe where Indiana Jones 5 just came out. So yeah, so back to the end of the episode before that, and it's gonna be non-spoiler at first, and then he'll go into spoilers, so you'll be given a warning. So without further delay, back to the episode. And next episode, I think, is gonna be on Furiosa. But without further delay, have a good day. Hi, this is Steven from that other universe, and since we mentioned Indiana Jones here, and I've seen the new movie over here, I figure I'd give a review on that. I'll try to be spoiler free, and if I do go into a spoiler, I'll give a big heads up. So the opening sequence felt like a video game, and you'll see what I mean. So it wasn't off to the best start in my eyes. And, you know, the beginning of an Indiana Jones movie needs to be, you know, very exciting. And they were trying to go with that with the beginning of this one, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, as it's called over here. Different name from what the Delayed Replay universe got. But the rest of the movie I thought was very thoughtful and really treated the character the way that he should be treated. And it acknowledges the previous films, but not in a nostalgia bait type of way. There were maybe just a couple moments where it felt very nostalgia baity to me, but Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character really added something. It wasn't like the movie didn't lean so much into the possibility of a future spin-off as the fourth movie did with Mutt Williams. It seemed like that was happening, but here I didn't really sense that. I don't know if it's just me, but it really felt like an Indiana Jones movie, but there were some, like, there was at least one different type of environment that we're not used to seeing with Indy. But ultimately, I think whether or not anyone enjoys this film will depend, like, how much they can suspend or disbelief. Well, before I go into the spoiler, I'll say what my ranking of the films are. So I think Last Crusade is still my favorite. It's a great father-son story, followed by, you know what, I'm gonna say Dial of Destiny is probably my second favorite. And then Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, I've always, for whatever reason, whenever Raiders is on, like, I know that it's good, except maybe like the cringy backstory about how Indy and Marion got together, but whenever it's on, I find myself paying less attention to it than I would some of the other movies. Um, and then after that, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I don't even think is bad. Like, the things that people dislike are usually tend to be these three things, right? The fridge scene, Mutt Williams swinging the vines with monkeys, and sometimes people like hate Mutt Williams as well, but I've seen sort of a resurgence or like a surge of Mutt Williams defenders pop up in the wake of this new movie. And thirdly, of course, the aliens. And I know that there was this idea in the 90s of um, it was gonna the fourth movie that Indiana Jones like the fourth movie that was going to be made in the 90s would have leaned into aliens, like even more so than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did. And the finished product would have, from the sounds of it, been very similar to Independence Day. In fact, I think the release of Independence Day is probably what killed it, according to what I read, and I had to go through many rewrites. So the details of that script, like the characters not seeming that well written, and I gotta remind myself that I'm reading about an early draft of all this, but that probably would have been bad or at least worse than what we got with Crystal Skull. But when I recently rewatched Crystal Skull, you know, I was rewatching the movies over a weekend. I found myself paying a lot of attention to it, and it was thrilling. And the aliens, I feel like people dismiss that, you know, the aliens only appear at the end, but yes, I know they're mentioned throughout and are the driving force of the plot. And the CGI is shoddy, I guess you could say. Like, they could have gone fully practical with the aliens at the end. But why are aliens the bridge too far? Why isn't it the Holy Grail that can, like, potentially heal someone, and the knight that's still around in that cave where it's found? Why is the Ark of the Covenant melting faces off? Why is that fine? Why is the voodoo stuff and maybe this is also part of it, like the pulling a beating heart out of someone, like, and Indy being hypnotized, like, why are those okay? Is it because for the Ark and the Holy Grail, is it because there's a biblical connection to those? Is that why? Is, Like, I know aliens are more sci-fi, so maybe that's part of it, but is this more, gosh, I gotta be careful because, like, I know people have different beliefs, but I'm talking about, like, in the world of the movie, like, why is the, why are aliens a bridge too far? Uh, okay, well, so I just realized I didn't mention that Temple of Doom was my least favorite, but you probably figured that out as I descended in the ranking. Willie screams a lot, and if a movie also tries way too hard to do the gross out moments, like with the food scene. So yeah, Temple of Doom is okay, but it's my least favorite. And Crystal Skull is fine, like it's fine, like um. So Dial of Destiny, and here's the spoiler I'm gonna go into. And so this scene that happens toward the end, I can see this being what makes one decide whether or not they like the movie and what it does. And the movie is not really subtle about that this is where the story is going. But at the end, lo and behold, there is time travel. So I'm not really sure um what people are. I haven't really seen many people talk about whether this is worse than Aliens. I've seen maybe one person say it is. I've seen other people, because they rank this above Crystal Skull, I guess maybe Aliens they think is worse. Um, I guess it's debatable whether this form of time travel is more sci-fi or more fantasy, but as it happened, I was just accepting of it. I was fully on board with this introspective ride that Indy is on. And this is the other spoiler that I'm going to mention. The what how they explain Mutt Williams' absence is that he enlisted in the Vietnam War and he died. And it's really sad because he and his dad, Indy, had an argument beforehand. And I think if things had been better with Shia LaBeouf, maybe a scene of that flashback could have enhanced this. The only flashback we got was the World War II scene, which with the deep fake, it's just not convincing to me. So, but for some, I could see how killing off Shia LaBeouf off screen might seem like an injustice to the character and an FU to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, in a way like how Clerks 3 feels like an FU to Clerks 2, like the stuff that movie does. But it didn't feel that way to me here. Mutt Williams, the way we saw him in the late 50s, if he were to progress into the 1960s, he seems very much like the type of character who would enlist in a war, in the Vietnam War. And you can debate whether or not like they should have maybe not mentioned the argument. Maybe that makes people sadder. I don't really know. I haven't seen too many people talk about this. But yeah, like it feels very much in line with the character. If these movies had been set a couple decades forward into the timeline, like if say the first few movies took place in like the 70s and 80s or something, and then this one took place in the 90s, and all of a sudden Mutt just randomly dies, gets hit by a car or something, then that would feel wrong to me. Here, it feels purposeful. It doesn't feel like an FU, like, yeah, like after Crystal Skull, some of us, like, I don't know how many, but I was one of the people who was open to a fifth movie with Mutt Williams. But then, of course, the behind the scenes reasons and, the fan reaction, like, given everything, I think they did well with what they had here, and it felt to me like it worked. And Marion coming back. I don't know why Lucasfilm posted about that the Monday after this movie came out. I suspected she would be in this since it would be weird that she wasn't, but when she appears, when does she appear? That's the context I was curious about. And as the movie kept progressing, I keep seeing more and more like, okay, she's gonna be at the very end. And also like when they're back in time, Indy wanting to stay in the past, that would have upset me and my friend that I saw this movie with. It felt kind of it felt like a reach in terms of what the character would want. But Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character Helena, like knocking him out and bringing him back to the present, I thought that was a funny way to do it. Like one could argue that Indy didn't have agency in that decision, so I'm so mad. But I feel like with this franchise, it works. Like the way that goes down, it works. At least the way I see it. People might think differently. But yeah, I thought Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was a solid, probably final outing for the character, at least with Harrison Ford. Although he's very adamant that only he can play the character. In the movies at least. Like there's also the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which I think is criminally underrated and really adds something knowing the early adventures of the character. So I think it might be on Disney Plus now or something. It was on Paramount Plus when I watched it a couple years ago. So just look up where it's available. And also like before the end credits, there was the circular transition, the circular fade, and I was laughing at that part because it reminded me of how butthurt some people were that the circular fade was used at the end of Mandalorian season 3. But anyway, yeah, I came out of the movie feeling satisfied, and my friend who is not very familiar with the Indiana Jones movies also felt satisfied. So yeah, I give this one at least an 8 out of 10. I'm still not sure if I'd give it 8.5 or 8 and a quarter, but potentially. Like I really enjoyed it. It was good for what it was, and yeah, I'm very happy that I enjoyed it given some of the early reviews and reception I'd been hearing. So yeah, that's my review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, without further delay of Destiny, have a good day of Destiny.